Hi, friends. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Hi, hi, hi. Happy Friday to you. It's finally Friday. Free again. Sorry. Hey, Sherry. I'm drinking my coffee. I had, this is my third cup today, but I've been up since 5:30, so. My first cup was regular coffee. My second cup was my caramel cappuccino. And I just got this cup, and this is regular coffee, too. I have to drink water at some point today. Anyway, Kiddo has a ENT, ear, nose, throat doctor's appointment today, this afternoon. I have to pick her up early from school, not too early, like maybe 20, 30 minutes earlier than she would normally leave, so that's good. Yeah, the caramel cappuccino is the bomb.com. But I have to pick Kiddo up. She has to go to her doctor's appointment, see what they say about her ears, whether or not, he thinks tubes are in her future. So day 4 in the trial is 5 hours and 57 minutes long. I don't know if the lunch break is in there. No. Oh, wait. It says jury sent to lunch, but yeah, it looks like a nice size portion of it is cut out too for lunch. But anyway, we'll have to cut day 4 early. That's why in the title it says day 4 part 1. I would have been live at 11. I thought about going live at 9 or 10 this morning, but I was like, no, people will miss it. So, I went ahead and planned it for 11, and then stuff, phone calls, that kind of thing kind of got in the way, so I didn't get to make the 11 o'clock time. So, sorry to be running late this morning. But anyway, hey, Patricia. Good to see you. You guys, we got some good news, too. For those of you, some of you may already know, depending on if you were somewhere last night. Anyway, my sister, the one that's been in the hospital, is coming home today. I think she's coming home today. So I'm excited, also nervous about that. The one that's been in the hospital and in the rehab for her stroke. So she may be home today, and if that's the case, I'm very excited. Either today or tomorrow, but I'm thinking today. So it is great news. It's great news, but I'm also a little bit like, are they pushing her out of the nest a little too early, I don't know. We'll see. And I'm hoping that she's going to get plenty of like home health care stuff, people, but we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and put this on probably home now. They were packing her up around 9. Okay, Mickey. Good deal. Good deal. And do you know, I'm a little confused. Is she going home or to Caroline's? Home, her home, or Caroline's? Do you know, Mickey Jor? Well, there was some pictures that they posted in the family group, and she said something about changing the playroom into a spot for her. So I didn't know. I didn't know if the playroom photos were at her house or if that was Caroline's house. I was confused. Anyway, excuse me. Anyway, we're going to get started. Sorry about that. We're going to get started. I'm going to 1.25 it as long as it's not too fast because it looks like they've cut the beginning off of day 4. I don't know what was missed, but at the very, very beginning of the video, it starts here. So there's already someone, a witness on the stand. Sherry Kacinko, which is the forensic toxicologist, assistant lab director. Oh, I remember this woman. I remember her. Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Into that role or responsibility, I'm ready to go. I already have that certification.
In terms of being a fellow of the American...
Okay, so we haven't missed too much because they're going over her CV, so good deal.
Board of Forensic Toxicologists. Does that require you to follow certain guidelines or ethical guidelines in your work?
Yes, so every time I recertify, I have to sign an ethics statement, basically a statement indicating that I will continue to work ethically as a forensic toxicologist and follow the expected ethical guidelines of the field. And there's an it's a little bit of a complicated relationship, but there's something called the Academy Standard Boards, and that's part of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, and it is in partnership with national, federal organizations, and they are working on putting out standards and guidelines and recommendations for all the different fields of forensic science. So basically, putting in writing what the basic expectations both
Become a narrative.
She may continue. I would just ask going forward. I do believe it's responsive, but go ahead.
So these recommendations and guidelines are drafted by people in the field. They go through a period of review. And then once they're adopted, there is an expectation that someone is certified by the American Board of Forensic Toxicologists, are aware of them, and are following those recommendations and guidelines.
Okay. In terms of, it looks like you're a member of the American Academy of Forensic Sciences, which I think you mentioned, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that important to your work?
Yes.
In terms of the page the jury's now seeing, the bottom of page 3, does that list all the professional organizations that you're a member of?
Yes.
Okay. I want to ask you about teaching. Do you do any teaching?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and I think if we go back up to page 2, we may have missed that section. Okay. So if you could just give the jury an overview of where you teach and what you're teaching, please.
So currently, my major teaching assignment is teaching a pharmacology course for the Forensic Science Graduate Program at Arcadia University. In the past, I have taught a forensic toxicology laboratory for the graduate program in forensic toxicology at Jefferson University. And ongoing, I participate in educational opportunities at the Center for Forensic Science Research and Education. This is a nonprofit organization that offers continuing education to people in the forensic science fields. And I teach in some of their courses related to forensic toxicology. For example, I teach in the postmortem interpretive toxicology class, and this is a class that is offered to the public. Primarily, the attendees are medical examiners, law enforcement, or medical legal death investigators. So it's a week-long course where they are learning about all of the different classes of drugs and how to interpret that postmortem toxicology.
Thank you. I am done with Exhibit 47. Doctor, I'd like to talk a little bit more about your lab. What kind of quality control efforts are in place at NMS Labs?
So quality control is present through every aspect of the laboratory, from receipt of specimens through publication of results. One of the primary quality control mechanisms is maintenance of chain of custody. So this is just tracking the samples through the laboratory, documenting everything that happens to them. Within the analytical testing, each analytical test has its own quality control. And typically when we talk about quality control samples, we're talking about samples with known amounts or presence of drug. We run it through the same test as patient samples, and we ensure the test is working correctly. We also participate in proficiency testing. So this is when outside organizations send samples in with drugs in them. We perform our testing on them and we report back to those agencies what we found. And then there's a report sent back to us. If there is anything that we reported that wasn't in there or that we didn't report that we should have, there has to be an investigation. We have to show them that we did that investigation to show that we have acknowledged and corrected any issues that led to that proficiency issue. And then for the toxicologists, every year, a certain number of cases that I review are secondary reviewed by another toxicologist. So after I'm done with my review, another toxicologist comes in and does a review to make sure that I did it correctly. And then finally, we get reviewed on our testimony. So either someone accompanies me to testimony or they read transcripts of my testimony. And that is all requirements of the laboratory accreditations.
So the lab is accredited?
Yes, NMS Labs has a large list of accreditations.
Okay. I'd like to have you talk a little bit more about what your day might look like at work at NMS Labs, please.
So my primary job duty at NMS Labs is case review. So this is the process of reviewing all of the documentation that was received with a sample, reviewing case history if one was provided, looking at the analytical results and the report and making sure that all of the testing that was requested was performed, that all of the results make toxicological sense, requesting additional testing if something looks awry. And then finally, I certify the report. I put my name on the report and say this is a reliable and accurate reflection of the results of the testing that was performed. Outside of that, I have involved in a lot of different groups. I'm in a strategy team. It's just an internal name we use for different groups that look at different types of testing. So I'm on the postmortem strategy team, and the job of that team is to regularly review the scope or the drugs that we're testing for in our postmortem panels and make sure that they are up to date. There are requirements or guidelines published by different organizations on what you should be testing for in different types of panels. So we're comparing to that, making sure that we're meeting those. And also I monitor drug trends within the laboratories. So we are a large lab. We do about 8,000 postmortem toxicology analyses a month. That means we have a lot of data. So one of my jobs is to keep track of that data and try to identify new trends. So new drugs that we're seeing, things that we're seeing more often. And then that is used to kind of guide future testing or educational opportunities. You know, if we start to see a new drug more often, it might be necessary to go out and educate our clientele or educate medical examiners or law enforcement officers that this new drug is out there. Related to new drugs, I also co-chair the novel psychoactive substances team. So it's kind of doing the same thing as postmortem, but specifically looking at novel drugs. So new things that are popping up in the drug supply. I am involved in method development and validation. Now, I don't do any of the development or the validation testing, but I am responsible for indicating what should be included in a test, what validation experiments need to be run. And the validation is the process of ensuring that a test works before we start using it on patient samples. And then I have random responsibilities and requirements. Depending on what's going on in the lab at any given time, I might be asked to participate in other projects.
Okay. When you talked about your role in determining and keeping updated the panel for postmortem samples, does your standard postmortem toxicological panel include tetrahydrozoline?
So we have really two levels of postmortem testing. There are three levels. We have a basic test, which does not include tetrahydrozoline. Our expanded postmortem panel, and I can't remember the name of the other panel. So we have an expanded panel that does, and then we have an expanded panel that also includes additional NPS that also includes tetrahydrozoline. The majority of our postmortem testing is that expanded panel that does include tetrahydrozoline.
Did you work on a report that was generated based on request from Dr. Bedritsky in Waukesha County for a patient named Lynn Hernan?
Yes, I did.
And do you know initially whether Dr. Bedritsky wanted that expanded panel that you just talked about?
That was the test that was originally ordered in this case. So all of our testing is directed by clients. We run what they asked us to run.
Okay. I want you to explain to the jury how you got involved in this case with Dr. Bedritsky.
So I did not review the original report. The original report was signed by I believe a certifying scientist, which was an old job title. They are now toxicologists too, but we had a class of people called certifying scientists. I was doing a job duty, which I didn't describe earlier, but we have a job duty that's called toxicologist of the day. And basically when you're toxicologist of the day, your job is to answer any questions coming in from clients. So clients calling into customer service, and this can be anything from they want to talk about a case and get some guidance on what tests to order, or they've gotten a result and they want to discuss the toxicology results. It also includes answering questions from the laboratory if the laboratory has any analytical questions. But on this given day, I was assigned to be toxicologist of the day, and a question came in from the medical examiner's office asking for a phone call to discuss the toxicology results in this case. So I did that because that day it was my job to do that.
And it was Dr. Kurczewski that called?
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that your lab does about 8,000 postmortem samples a month?
Yeah, it varies, obviously, but I think currently it's at 7,000 to 8,000 a month.
Are you able to keep your thumb on all those and grab all the ones that have tetrahydrozoline in it?
No.
Okay.
Who signs out a case is very random, basically. There's lists of different cases that need to be signed, and we sign them first in, first out. So, and it depends on what you're allowed. I'm allowed to sign every type of case that comes into the lab, but as you move through this, like when you first start, you're only signing certain types of cases.
Do you remember why Dr. Kurczewski called about this case?
She called because tetrahydrozoline is an unusual finding, and it was the first time she had encountered it in a postmortem case.
At that point, did you pull the toxicology results that had been done in your lab?
Yes.
So if I asked you if you personally did the testing that gave those results, what would you say?
No.
Okay. What did you do when you took a look at that panel, those results?
The results for this case?
Right.
So I reviewed the data to make sure everything looked good, and I looked at the results, and I don't remember if sometimes when we get these phone calls, they call client support, and client support writes down notes and emails us that they want a phone call back. I cannot remember if it specifically said tetrahydrozoline was what she was calling about. But when I looked at the toxicology report, I was like, I bet you she's calling about the tetrahydrozoline because it was a very elevated concentration compared to what we're used to seeing. So I did just, before I call, I always try to do a little bit of research on all of the drugs just to try to be prepared for any questions. It's really hard because a lot of times you have no idea and you can spend a lot of time preparing and they have a question completely unrelated. But in this case, I read through some information on tetrahydrozoline. I confirmed my thought that it was an elevated concentration. I looked at some of the literature of other reported results, and then I called her back.
Okay. In terms of your time with the lab, was this the very first time that any client called you about a tetrahydrozoline result, if you recall?
I recall one other phone call specifically. Well, now there's more than one. There was one phone call that I had. I honestly don't remember if it was before or after this case. Since then, I've had several different conversations with different people about tetrahydrozoline. But at that time, there may have been one case that was around the same time that I spoke to a client about.
Do you know if this was the first or second time that tetrahydrozoline had been reported in an NMS report on a postmortem sample?
No, it's not unusual to report. It's not common to report tetrahydrozoline, but it's something we see because it is something that a lot of people use. What was unusual about this case was how much was there. So, probably don't get a lot of phone calls about it because when we do report it, typically it's at very low concentrations. So this was unusual because of the amount, not because it was tetrahydrozoline.
What are those more usual concentrations that you referenced?
So typically when it's used as an eye drop, the concentration is less than 1 nanogram per milliliter. We see a fair number that are kind of between 1 and 10. And then as the concentration increases, the number of cases we see decreases. But we have seen a dozen to 20 cases with concentrations greater than 100.
Okay. Was Ms. Hernan's case one of those?
Yes.
I'd like to publish the front page of Exhibit 35, please.
Go ahead.
Dr. Kurczewski, does this look like the first page of the NMS lab for Ms. Hernan?
Yes.
Okay. And this has already been entered into evidence, but is this the report that ultimately you signed off on in this case?
It is one of the reports that I signed. There were multiple cases. Looks like it was the final report that I signed in this case.
Okay. And if we can please just zoom in on the top 2/3 of this page. So, Dr. Kurczewski, if your lab issues multiple reports, do subsequent reports incorporate everything that's been done already?
Yes. So as long as it says supplemental at the top, that means additional testing was done. So it's going to look the same as the original report, just with additional findings if there were additional findings. Sometimes we do additional testing and there are no additional findings. But each report will include the previous report's results plus the new results.
And in this case, what was the tetrahydrozoline result in the blood?
It was 160 nanograms per milliliter.
Okay. In this case, do you recall, you already testified that there was more testing done after that initial panel, right?
That is correct.
Why was more testing done?
So after my initial phone call with the medical examiner, there were a couple of drugs that were in the case history for some reason. I believe there were some pill bottles found at the scene or medical records that are not included in the testing that she initially requested, but were capable of doing testing for. So those tests were added. And then the decision was made to also test other matrices. So in this case, the gastric fluid and the liver tissue. And this happened over the course of several different phone calls. I don't remember each step what testing was added, but it was, it's not uncommon to, in a complicated case, to slowly add additional testing to make sure you're getting the whole toxicological picture.
And is that what was done in this case?
Yes.
In terms of the results in Exhibit 35, do you believe that they're true and accurate to a reasonable degree of toxicological certainty?
So I have reviewed all of the analytical data in this case. So I have looked at all of those quality control samples. The cal of the results are accurate and reliable.
Ultimately, Doctor, were you asked to put a report together in this case?
Beyond the
Yes.
yes, so I issued the toxicology report, and I was also asked to write what we call an opinion report or an interpretive report, which just includes more information about specific drugs of interest and addressing some questions on interpretation.
Okay. Is that report more case specific to this case in terms of what opinions you included?
Yes.
Okay. Before you finalized that report, did you talk to the team from the district attorney's office?
Yes, I did.
Was that because we had questions about this?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, in fact, talk multiple times with Dr. Budritsky?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to show you, just the witness, please, Exhibit 48. And it is a 3-page exhibit. If we could just page down for the witness. And if we go to page 2, Dr. Kasinko, is that your signature?
Yes, it is.
And back to page 1, what is Exhibit 48?
This is the interpretation or expert opinion report that I wrote for this case.
Okay. Does it look like a fair and accurate copy of that report?
Yes.
Right. Move Exhibit 48 into evidence. Ask for permission to publish.
No objection. Exhibit 48 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
Ultimately, Doctor, were you able to give information specific to this chemical compound that Dr. Budritsky didn't even have available to her in terms of that she already knew about?
I believe that there, I think to say she didn't have available would be inaccurate. This is information that is available in the scientific literature, but it is, I did provide some very specific information on the pharmacology. So what happens when an individual uses tetrahydrozoline? What happens when, so pharmacology is both what happens to the person and also how the person changes the drug. I also was able to do some calculations to estimate how much tetrahydrozoline was in certain specimens, and also some information on what reported concentrations were after regular eye drop use of tetrahydrozoline.
In terms of the top of the page that the jury can see, there's a word there that I'm not real familiar with, pharmacology. What is that, Doctor?
So as I said, pharmacology is the study of drugs and chemicals and their effect on a person. So it has two parts. Pharmacology consists of pharmacokinetics, which is a study of how drugs get into the body, so their absorption, how they are distributed throughout the body, their metabolism, which is the body's mechanism of getting rid of drugs. Your body really doesn't want drugs to be in it. Its primary goal is to get rid of it, so that's through metabolism. And finally, excretion, which is how it leaves the body finally. And then there's also pharmacodynamics, and pharmacodynamics are the effects the drug have on the person. So the symptoms, both the desired effects, so the reason why someone is taking a drug, and also the adverse or undesired effects of those drugs.
Why would someone use a product with tetrahydrozoline in it?
So tetrahydrozoline is the active ingredient in eye drops that are used to decrease redness in the eye. The most common trade name is Visine, and their tagline, "Get the red out." So it is intended to, it causes the blood vessels in the eyes to constrict, which makes your eyes look less red. It is also available in a nasal spray. It's less commonly used that way, but it works as a decongestant. So again, it constricts blood vessels. A lot of nasal congestion is actually caused by the swelling of the tissues. So it causes those tissues to have less swelling so that you can breathe easier.
Is that type of product different from what might be called a lubricating eye drop?
Yes.
Could you explain that to the jury, please?
So lubricating eye drops contain emollients or substances that are slippery and are used to lubricate the eye. Whereas tetrahydrozoline, as I said, is designed to constrict those blood vessels so that your eyes don't look as red.
Is there any product in the US available for oral use of tetrahydrozoline to drink it?
No, there is no FDA approved use for oral tetrahydrozoline.
In terms of what can occur to someone if they do drink it, what are some of those symptoms?
So when tetrahydrozoline is ingested orally, its effects are more central. So when you use it as an eye drop, it's a peripheral effect. It's acting on those blood vessels exactly where you drop the tetrahydrozoline. When it's ingested, it is acting at receptors primarily in the brain, and it is causing effects like respiratory depression, very low blood pressure. It can cause a very low heart rate. So these are all things that we call central nervous system depressant or CNS depressant type effects.
Okay. Now, in terms of, I think a real common question in a case like this is, doctor, how much would I have to drink of tetrahydrozoline to get to, for example, a level of 160? Could you tell the jury that?
No, I can't.
Why not?
So the primary reason with a drug like tetrahydrozoline is we can't do that experiment. So how we determine that type of information, so this is part of that pharmacokinetics, is by giving people the drug and then testing their blood or plasma to see how much is there. So you give different doses, measure the blood over time, and determine what the concentrations are. But this drug is not used orally. We would never get approved to do a study where we gave people oral tetrahydrozoline and then studied their blood concentrations.
Why not?
Because of the serious adverse effects of the drug. It can cause your respiration to decrease. It can cause depressant effects. And because there's no FDA approved use, you simply can't do that study.
But what if you took a look at your toxicology level and did some mathematical calculations? Can't you tell us that way what it would be?
So there are calculations in pharmacokinetics and pharmacology that are used to estimate dose based on a blood concentration. These are generally quite complex, especially when you're dealing with an oral medication, because you need to know a lot of information about the pharmacokinetics of that drug. These are taught in clinical pharmacology courses. I teach it in my pharmacology course. I teach students that these calculations exist. We do a few examples of them, but they are not appropriate to use in postmortem toxicology cases for a wide variety of reasons. And even in clinical toxicology, there's not really a lot of practical use of doing the calculations. It's a lot of just helping you understand how drugs are absorbed and distributed and showing those processes. They're population-based. There's a lot of individual differences that would make it inappropriate to do on a specific person.
And everything that you just testified about, does that kind of fit under the number 1 on the screen that the jury is looking at?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the number 2, it looks like you formed an opinion about the level in Ms. Hernan's case, right?
Yes.
And what's that opinion?
So there has been one study done on therapeutic use of...
Stop right now. Please answer the question that's asked, and then Attorney Nicolai will follow up. Okay? Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What is...
Oof. What'd she say? Hold on, I gotta put that back on normal. Did the judge just, jump on her? Oh, hold on. Hold on, let me rewind it.
Your opinion.
Differences that differences that would make it inappropriate to do on a specific
King.
person.
And everything that you just testified about, does that kind of fit under the number 1 on the screen that the jury is looking at?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of the number 2, it looks like you formed an opinion about the level in Ms. Hernan's case, right?
Yes.
And what's that opinion?
So there has been one study done on therapeutic use of...
Stop her right now. Please answer the question that's asked, and then Attorney Nikolai will follow up, okay? Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
What is your opinion that you came to in this case regarding Ms. Hernan's concentration level?
The concentration found was over 400 times higher than the highest concentration that's been reported following the use of tetrahydrozoline as an eye drop.
And you began to explain to the jury about how that level was obtained, right?
Yes.
And is that a study?
Yes.
And what was that study about?
There was a study done where they gave people Visine eye drops following the directions on the Visine eye drop package and measured their plasma concentrations at different time points throughout the study.
Okay. In terms of your opinion regarding Ms. Hernan's level, does that also flow into the number 3 that the jury's seeing on the screen?
Yes.
Is that also based on the study that you've described now?
No.
Okay, could you explain to the jury how that piece of your opinion differs?
So this piece of my opinion is based on case studies that have been published in the scientific literature on individuals who had oral ingestion or oral exposure to tetrahydrozoline and the concentrations that were reported in those patients.
But I thought you said that we couldn't study that, right?
Yes, these are not studies. This is a case series. So these are accidental ingestions, primarily in children. So they weren't given the tetrahydrozoline solution. It was ingested incidentally.
Okay. And were those case studies fatalities?
No.
Then why were they helpful to you in this case?
It showed concentrations that were present when different symptoms of tetrahydrozoline were reported. So it gives some information on what concentrations can be reached when someone ingests tetrahydrozoline. So when you swallow it, what type of concentrations might appear in the plasma, and also what type of symptoms the individuals were experiencing.
Own dose of 7.5 milliliters. I'd like you to compare that number for the jury to what's coming in a Visine bottle or an eye drop bottle in terms of volume.
I believe that's about half of a bottle. I think a bottle of Visine is 15 milliliters.
Okay. And in terms of those cases where there are symptoms?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
In those 2 cases referred to with the known dosing, what were the levels reported?
39 and 24 nanograms per milliliter.
Now, you testified before that in this case you did one calculation, right?
That is correct.
Why did you do that?
So I wanted to see approximately how much of the Visine solution was in the decedent's stomach.
Why?
Just to get an estimate of how, if ingestion occurred. So if I had done this calculation and there was very little, there's something called hepatic recirculation where drugs can get into the stomach even if they weren't ingested. But those would be very, very low levels. So I wanted to confirm that this concentration that was found in the stomach was consistent with an oral ingestion.
And was it?
Yes.
What was the concentration, the result of your calculation? If we can scroll down a bit, please.
So assuming that the stomach contents that I tested were homogeneous, so that means that the sample I received was a well-mixed representation of the total stomach contents, and based on a total stomach content...
Judge, she just asked her what the number was, and she's going into a narrative again.
Sustained. Oh, please wait for a question.
Could you please explain to the jury what assumptions you had to make when you did this calculation?
So whenever you do a calculation, you have to make certain assumptions. And in this case, the assumptions I made were that the stomach contents were homogeneous. As I explained, they were well mixed, and the sample was representative of the entire stomach contents, and that the volume of 300 milliliters, which was provided to me by the medical examiner. And so those are the assumptions that I made prior to doing the calculation.
Okay. Ultimately, did that calculation allow you to see the volume of tetrahydrozoline within that fluid?
Yes,
And what was the result?
5 milliliters.
Okay. Ultimately, doctor, in this case, the jury was told that you can't die from drinking tetrahydrozoline. Would you agree with that?
No.
Why not?
There are cases of deaths from tetrahydrozoline.
In fact, have those cases come through your lab?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
The ones I am aware of, yes.
Are you trying to compile that information right now?
I am.
Why?
As I started looking at our data on tetrahydrozoline, I saw that there were quite a few cases with these concentrations that were higher than could be explained from eye drop use. So I became interested in those cases, and I started reaching out to the clients who submitted those cases to gather more information to see if these are cases that, or to gather information on what concentrations might be consistent with fatalities or significant adverse effects.
Isn't there any publication or articles that already have that kind of information in it?
At this time, there are no publications on fatalities from tetrahydrozoline in the scientific literature.
Why is that?
Someone has to write the first paper, and writing a paper is hard and a lot of work, and you need a lot of time and information, and it's just
Is it
something
still
that...
glitchy for you, Miss King? Is the stream glitching for anyone else?
Most people working as medical examiners or toxicologists are doing when they have time, which is not a lot. So it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of time.
Okay. In this case, were you actually asked by the defense team for the raw data of some of these instances of high levels of tetrahydrozoline in your lab?
Yes.
Did you provide that to the defense?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 217. And just the witness, please. Doctor, this is a multi-page exhibit, and let me know when you can see it.
I can see it.
Great. If we could just go through these 20 pages. Doctor, do you recognize Exhibit 217?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
This is just a subset of cases that have been tested at NMS labs that include tetrahydrozoline, and I had some type of information either from the requisition or from a discussion with the client indicating these were fatalities.
Okay. Does this look like a fair and accurate copy of that data set?
Yes.
Are there some things blacked out?
Yes.
Why?
We redacted client information and patient information for privacy concerns.
Okay. I move Exhibit 217 into evidence. I ask for permission to publish.
I do object. I'd like to have the heard at sidebar.
All right, let's see the parties at sidebar.
Sidebar City. Let me fast forward.
For sidebar, obviously I had, there was an objection, it's overruled. Exhibit 217 is received.
And Judge, if we could please publish this.
Go ahead.
Doctor, I'm not going to go through each page of this with you, but I would like to ask you some questions about a few of them, starting with page 1. If we could just scroll to the bottom of page 1, zoom in a bit. Doctor, do you see the exhibit sticker that says 217 at the bottom?
Yes.
And then there's an entry from your lab NMS below that.
Yes.
Under that, is there actually a new page number that you didn't put on there?
Yes.
And if we go to the bottom of page 2, is there also the subsequent number 002 at the bottom of that page?
Yes.
Okay, so not only can we see the page there on the tab, but this has also been numbered in order, is that true?
It looks like it, yes.
Okay, so starting with page 1, I want to ask you about the tetrahydrozoline level. Is this a lab report that NMS produced?
Yes.
It looks a lot like the report that the jury saw of Ms. Hernan, right?
All of our reports have the same format.
Okay, so the things in that box are results in terms of what was tested?
These are the positive findings. So at the end of the report, there's a list of everything that was tested for, and we only report positive findings.
Got it. What sample was tested in this case?
Cardiac blood.
Okay. Was tetrahydrozoline a positive finding in this case?
Yes, it was.
And what was the level?
68 nanograms per milliliter.
Did the subject in this case die?
Yes.
And remind the jury again why you chose the cases included in Exhibit 217?
These were cases where I was able to obtain some type of case history either through the requisition that was submitted, conversations with the client, or in some cases, publicly available information.
What made you decide to include these 5 versus all other ones?
The concentrations, and there was some sort of indication in one of those things I mentioned, the case history, discussions with the medical examiner, or publicly available information that tetrahydrozoline played a role in the death.
Thank you, Doctor. I'd like to move now to page 7 of Exhibit 217. Doctor, are we at a new set of lab findings for a new client on page 7?
Yes.
How do you know?
So I can see the client ID. I don't know who that client is off the top of my head, but that's a different client ID than was on the first report.
Okay.
It also has a different work order number.
Okay. So are pages 1 through 6 all for the same person?
I would need to see them again to be sure. Yes.
So that lab report was 6 pages long, is that true?
That is correct.
Okay, so what is the jury looking at on page 7?
So this is a case where the only test that we were requested to run was the tetrahydrozoline.
And was that done at your lab?
Yes.
And what was the result?
130 nanograms per milliliter.
Is this another case where you were able to get some information about cause of death?
Yes, I do want to be clear, though, that I do not know what was listed as cause of death on the death certificates for most of these cases. This is just information from the requisition or a discussion with the medical examiner. And I don't recall specifically which cases I talked to the medical examiner.
Person that gave the sample of iliac blood is alive or not? Do you know the answer to that?
This person was not alive.
Okay. And then if we can just slowly scroll through pages 8 and then to 9. Doctor, is page 9 a new report now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Again, did your lab do testing in this case for tetrahydrozoline?
Yes.
And again, was that from a post-mortem sample?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the result in this incident?
280 nanograms per milliliter.
Okay. I'd like to scroll through page 10 and 11 and 12. And then on page 13, doctor, is this a new report?
Yes, it is.
Okay, of a different person who died?
Yes.
Did your lab run a tetrahydrozoline screen in this case?
Yes.
And what was the result?
150 nanograms per milliliter. I think that's it.
Could you remind the jury again what Ms. Hernan's level was?
Was 160 nanograms per milliliter.
Okay. If we could please scroll through page 14, 15, 16, and then ultimately on page 17, doctor, is this now another new report?
It is a new report.
Okay. Was this patient also deceased?
Yes. However, can you scroll back to page 1? Sure. I apologize. Yes. So this is actually the same patient on page 1. So we did testing twice at different time points on different samples for the same case.
Okay. So on page 1, the result is listed at?
It is 68 nanograms per milliliter in cardiac blood, and that was done in July, August of 2018.
Okay. Then on page 17, you're saying this is results for the same patient or decedent?
Yes.
And explain to the jury how this test changed from page 1.
This was also a cardiac blood sample, and the concentration was 37 nanograms per milliliter.
Were these tests done at the same time?
I do not know. I don't believe so.
Okay. Thank you. I'm finished with Exhibit 217. Doctor, did this data from within your lab help you form your opinions in this case?
Yes, it did.
One moment, please. Now, if I could please put the published down, I'd like to just show the witness Exhibit 216. Doctor, do you see Exhibit 216 on your screen?
Yes, I do.
Is that a 2-page document?
Yes, it is.
We'll go to page 2. Do you recognize Exhibit 216?
Yes.
What is it?
This is an abstract that I wrote for a presentation at the International Association of Forensic Toxicologists annual meeting.
Where was that? If you know.
It was in Versailles. It was in Versailles, France. Sorry,
Okay.
I was trying to remember what year it was.
What is an abstract?
So an abstract is a short research summary indicating the research that was performed, the reason the research was being performed, and the results of that research.
Does this look like a fair and accurate copy of your abstract?
Yes.
I move Exhibit 216 into evidence. I'm not asking to publish.
Received.
Doctor, did you present the information in this abstract in France at that event?
Yes, I did.
Could you please explain to the jury what information you presented generally?
So generally, it was the information from those cases that we just looked at, where I had gathered some information about the cases. I talked about what tetrahydrozoline is, what it's generally used for, and then talked about these potential fatalities. In this set of data, there was one case that was not a fatality, but had an elevated concentration. But basically presenting the information that I had available at the time on these cases, just to make the forensic toxicology community aware of tetrahydrozoline as a potentially harmful substance when orally ingested.
When you presented this in France, what year was that?
That was last year, 2022.
Okay. Did part of that presentation include whether or not tetrahydrozoline can be fatal?
Yes.
And is that also included in your abstract?
Yes.
And what's your opinion about that?
Tetrahydrozoline can be fatal.
Since that abstract and since 2018, have there been more cases through NMS labs that you've seen involving tetrahydrozoline?
Yes.
Have any of those cases changed your opinion about the lethality of tetrahydrozoline?
No.
In fact, have they reinforced it?
Yes.
One moment. That's all I have. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you.
All right, cross.
Just switching microphones here.
Of course. Thank you.
So you have this database of cases at NMS labs
I
that you spoke about today.
Yes, I keep an ongoing list of tetrahydrozoline cases. So I regularly look at the new cases, the new results, and add to my list of cases that I want to further investigate.
So you're a private company, is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, and no one outside of your company has access to your database, is that true?
I can, no one can just log in and pull the data. We do provide data to a wide variety of different entities upon request.
If somebody wants data from your lab, they can't just have it if they want it. You have to give permission. You'd have to authorize it, right?
Well, not me personally, but the laboratory does maintain and control the data. So there would have to be a request for the data. And depending on what the request is, sometimes they do require a subpoena or a non-disclosure agreement to protect the information.
What's the National Poison Data System, NPDS?
That is a, to the best of my knowledge, it is a record of calls to poison control centers.
So your database is, well, strike that. Would the data that is in the NPDS be available to you if you wanted to look at it?
I've never tried to just pull data from it, but I believe that that information is accessible. I don't know if you have to register or anything to get it, but I believe it's available.
Well, you have a particular interest in THC, don't you?
I find it interesting because of the information I've gathered over
Why?
the years.
I didn't ask you why. I just asked you if you had a special interest in it.
Yes.
Okay. Have you tried to get onto that system to see what cases you might be able to look at?
No, I have not.
You could do that if you wanted to, right?
Yes, I believe so. I'm not certain.
You only rely upon the cases that come through your lab.
At this point, I've only looked at cases that have come through NMS, yes.
Does the federal government and the CDC, they would go to the National Poison Data System for information, true?
I do not know.
They don't come to you, do they?
We certainly get requests for information from CDC, but I don't know what the relationship is directly now.
Do you know that they have more than 2 million cases?
Okay, yeah, I went on my phone and looked, and it's glitching for me too. So, let me, hold on a minute. Hold on, let me see if I can dump it down and then reopen it back into StreamYard. Hold on just a second, guys. Sorry. It's never done that before, has it?
Cases a year that go through their lab, their agency?
Which agency? I'm sorry.
National Poison Data System.
I do not know what their source of their data is or how much data is in there. Like I said, I believe it's from poison control centers, but I don't know if they have other sources.
You were telling the jury just now about having, and you showed us an abstract, right?
Yes.
216, Exhibit 216.
That is correct.
And that's something that you showed at a conference you went to in Versailles, France. Is that right?
That is correct.
And that's because you can go to conferences. You can choose which conferences you want to go to. True.
I don't have free reign. There's the process of getting approved to go to conferences, but yes, I get to go to conferences, typically 2 a year.
But what I mean is, you look at the conferences that are available and you make a personal decision where you might want to go.
Yes, but I don't always get to go to the places we put down a list of where we want to go, and then managers decide who goes to each conference ultimately.
The point being, Versailles, France didn't invite you to come to the conference. You requested from your NMS labs to go to that conference.
Yes, it's a conference that I wanted to go to and got approval to attend.
And when you're going to go to a conference, isn't it true that you get a letter or you get an email saying, hey, anybody who's going to be attending this conference, if you have an abstract that you'd like to show at the conference, please submit it in advance and we'll consider that. Isn't that true?
That is how the process works,
Okay,
yes.
so it was just a general request, as usual, for anyone who had an idea and you submitted yours hoping that maybe you could show your abstract.
That is correct.
And so this abstract that you've shown in court today, this is not published, right?
I have not yet published this as a complete paper, no.
To have a paper published, it's a process, true?
It's a process.
You got to put a lot of information together.
That is correct.
Right, right. Put it in a format, a format to be published, right?
That is correct.
Then you have to pick a journal that you personally might like it to be published in.
Yes, you submit to a specific journal.
Well, a journal that you choose. You decide the journal you're going to submit it to, right?
Yes,
Okay, and then you submit it, and then it's got to go through a peer review process, right?
that is correct.
And the peer review process is where your information, once you finish the paper, is reviewed by other people in your field and critiqued.
That is correct, yes.
And you haven't gotten to that yet.
The abstract was reviewed before it was accepted, but I have not published a paper yet, correct?
Well, you haven't even submitted it to a journal yet for publication.
Correct.
Okay, so you're just writing it now.
I am working on, I haven't even started writing, but I am working on gathering and doing the research and putting the research together to be able to write the paper.
So hopefully someday you'll be able to get that published.
That is my goal.
To get it published, though, like I said, it has to go through this peer review process.
Yes, there's a peer review process for scientific publications.
And by members in your field, they'll take a look at what you've written, and they'll critique it in some way, and probably go back to you with questions or clarifications. Is that true?
Yes, there's usually response from the reviewers with questions to address.
And then you might have to, and then you probably have to revise your paper or answer the questions for them to look at it yet again.
That is correct.
And that can be a process that can take several backs and forth.
In my experience, there's usually just one, but I do know that there can be more than that.
Okay. So you haven't done any of that yet with this tetrahydrozoline one-page paper that you brought in here today.
That went through the review process for acceptance at the conference where it was reviewed by other toxicologists, but I have not published a scientific paper in the journals, the complete review paper yet, correct?
As to the cases that you talked about today, these the cases that were just presented to us in Exhibit 217, I want to talk to you about that for
Okay.
a minute.
I don't think that's the problem, Ween Baby, because it's playing fine through my StreamYard. So it's somewhere between StreamYard and out. You know what I'm saying? Because it's playing perfect on my StreamYard on the video that I'm watching. So the problem is in the stream, not in the video that we're streaming. Because it's not doing it at all. When I had no idea it was even doing anything. And then when you said something, then I was like, well, let me look on my phone at the channel, and I saw it was doing it, but it's not doing it on the stream. So yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if I should stop it and try to start a new stream. If that'll work out the issue. Because I don't want to have to listen to that. Let me do that. Let me just start a new stream. Hold on. And if it still does it then I don't know what to tell us. I don't know what to tell us. Hold on a minute. Oh no, hold on, wrong thing. Oof. I'm just trying to make a new stream. Hold on, I'm gonna have to put a part. Oh, I'm glitching too, yeah. What is this? Rewatch. Hold on, folks. Okay. Hold on a minute. I'm going to send you all the link in the chat. Copy. I'm glitching. Just call me Vanilla Peavon Sweet from Wreck-It Ralph. Okay, go here. Go there. I'm going to end this one out. We're going to go to part 2. I've named it part 2. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, then I might end it for the day because I'm not going to be able to tolerate that, and I don't want people to have to watch that on the replay. So, you guys click that link, this link, go there, and I will be there in just a second. Bye.